Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's finally your moment. Stop waiting for a sign, an invitation, a green light, a perfect alignment of circumstances. Because the truth is simple, no one is coming to choose you. You must choose yourself. Every great life begins with a quiet rebellion, the moment a person decides to no longer live by the expectations of the world, but by the vision burning inside their own mind. And the world doesn't applaud you for this decision. It doesn't encourage you. It doesn't clear a path for you. The world tests you, resists you, challenges you, because only those who withstand the resistance are strong enough to handle the life they imagine. Look at every titan who ever changed the course of history. Edison, Carnegie, Ford, Disney, Jobs. None of them were handed a throne. None of them were given approval before they began. They acted first. They built first. They dared first. They moved when everyone else hesitated. And that is why their names are etched into the architecture of human possibility. Their journeys did not begin with applause. They began with the decision, I will no longer wait. You must understand something fundamental. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. Most people do not fail because the dream is too big. Most people fail because they are waiting for clarity, waiting for confidence, waiting for the right timing, waiting for someone to say, you are worthy. But the universe does not reward hesitation. It rewards movement. Your destiny expands when you expand. Your opportunities appear when you act. Your courage grows when you take the first step, not when you analyze the next 10. You are standing at a gateway, a threshold between the life you tolerate and the life you imagine. And the only key, the only requirement, the only permission you will ever need is your decision. The moment you decide to stop watching life and start shaping it, everything changes. A person who has decided becomes a force. A person who has decided becomes inevitable. Think about the power of clarity for a moment. Not the kind of clarity you wait for, but the kind you create. Clarity is born from commitment. You don't get clear and then commit. You commit and become clear. When you plant your feet in the direction of your vision, the fog begins to lift. When you move, the path reveals itself. Edison didn't wait for the perfect formula before he attempted the first experiment. He moved, he failed, he learned, and clarity emerged through motion. Disney didn't wait for permission to dream beyond the confines of what people considered entertainment. He imagined worlds the public could not understand yet, and he built anyway. Ford didn't wait for society to accept his vision of an affordable automobile. Society laughed. Then society depended on it. This is the pattern of greatness. Those who change the world move before the world understands why. And today, you must do the same. The life you imagine, the success, the wealth, the freedom, the purpose, the fulfillment, it does not respond to hesitation. It responds to identity. It responds to the standards you set. It responds to who you decide to become. You cannot transform your life while clinging to the identity of someone who doubts their right to pursue greatness. You cannot claim abundance while thinking like someone who waits for approval. You cannot step into your future while dragging the fears of your past. There comes a moment where you must declare, even if only to yourself, I am done living as a smaller version of who I am. Because the world will take as much of your potential as you are willing to give away. It will drain your time, your energy, your dreams, your passion, if you let it. It will convince you that there is always tomorrow, always later, always another chance. But there are people who live their entire lives inside later, and they die with their dreams unspoken and their potential unused because they kept waiting for the world to tell them they were ready. You are not one of those people. You cannot be. Not if you feel something inside you wanting more. Not if you sense a deeper calling. Not if you know, even without evidence, that you are meant for something greater than the script society handed you. When you stop waiting, you stop shrinking. When you stop waiting, you stop apologizing. When you stop waiting, you stop betraying your own potential. This is the moment you step forward. This is the moment you take ownership. This is the moment you decide that permission is not something you receive, it is something you give yourself. And once you give yourself permission, the world must adjust. Because the moment you claim your own power, something inside you shifts forever. You stop negotiating with your old limitations. You stop asking for validation from people who never believed in themselves. You stop watering down your vision so others can feel comfortable around you. Instead, you begin to rise slowly, intentionally, powerfully into the identity you were always meant to inhabit. And rising isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It begins quietly, almost invisibly, in the place unseen by the world but deeply felt within you. It starts with a thought you can no longer ignore, a desire that refuses to shrink back, a whisper that says, "It's time. Time to stop pretending you don't want more. Time to stop explaining why you haven't begun. Time to stop living the same year over and over and calling it a life." The truth is, your future is not built by the loud moments. It's built by the silent ones, the decisions you make when no one is watching, the battles you fight in your own mind, the standards you raise when you could easily lower them. That's where your power is forged. That's where discipline takes root. That's where a future reshapes itself around a stronger, more determined you. Greatness doesn't announce itself. It grows in the shadows of your daily choices. Think of the people history has immortalized. Lincoln studying by firelight, Carnegie learning bookkeeping with borrowed books, Oprah reading her way out of impossibility, Mandela choosing purpose over hatred. None of them were handed their greatness. They grew into it through moments of private decision, long before the world ever witnessed their impact. The question is, what decisions are you making in private? Are you feeding your future or feeding your fears? Are you watering your dreams or watering your doubt? Are you building your vision or building excuses to delay it? What you do in private becomes who you are in public. What you repeat becomes what you believe. What you allow becomes what you accept, and what you accept becomes your life. You cannot wait for the perfect mindset. You create the perfect mindset by showing up again and again until your actions carve a new identity into your very soul. Self-belief is not something you receive. It is something you build, brick by brick, through discipline, through intention, through unwavering commitment to the person you've decided to become. You are sculpting yourself every day, with every thought, with every choice, with every action or lack of action. And here is the truth most people run from. Your life right now is the result of who you've been, not who you are capable of being. Your future will be built by the version of you that shows up from this moment forward. If you want a different life, you must become a different person, not in some distant future. Not when life becomes easier, not when everything aligns. You become that person now. You embody the identity of someone who acts instead of waits, who builds instead of hesitates, who leads instead of follows. You must become the kind of person who gives themselves permission. Permission to dream, permission to evolve, permission to begin before you're ready, permission to fail and still continue. Permission to leave the old story behind, because the old story is heavy. It carries the weight of your doubts, your fears, your past mistakes, your inherited insecurities. And you cannot rise while gripping the very things that hold you down. Every great transformation begins with letting go, not of the dream, but of the version of yourself that's too afraid to pursue it. There is a life you imagine, a life that visits you in moments of quiet clarity. Not the life you think you should want, not the life society tells you to chase, but the life that feels like truth, the life that calls you by name, the life that stirs something ancient inside you, something older than your excuses, something deeper than your fear. That life is real. That life is waiting. But it is not coming to find you. You must go to it. And when you move toward it, even with trembling steps, the universe begins to respond. Not because of luck or chance, but because of alignment. When your thoughts, actions, intentions, and identity point in the same direction, life begins to rearrange itself around your courage. You stop attracting obstacles created by fear and start attracting opportunities created by belief. You stop seeing problems and start seeing possibilities. You stop asking, "What if it doesn't work?" and begin asking, "What if this is the moment everything changes?" And the answer is always the same. It changes the moment you do. Every dream requires a price, not in money, but in mindset. You must trade comfort for growth. You must trade approval for authenticity. You must trade waiting for action. And above all, you must trade your old identity for the one your future demands. Most people are unwilling to make that trade. But you are not most people, or you wouldn't still be listening. A person who listens this far is not seeking motivation. They're seeking transformation. Something inside them is ready for a new chapter. Something inside them is tired of waiting for permission. Something inside them knows it's time to rise. And rising is not a single moment. It is a choice repeated until it becomes your nature. It's the moment you stop negotiating with your potential. It's the moment you stop talking yourself out who you could become. It's the moment you realize that the walls holding you back were built by your own hesitation, and they can be demolished by your own action. There is a power inside you that you have barely touched, a strength you've only glimpsed in moments of urgency or crisis. But imagine if that power became your default. Imagine if that strength became your identity. Imagine if you lived each day not from fear or doubt or habit, but from intention, vision, and determination. Because success is not owned by the talented. Success is built by the intentional. The people who create extraordinary lives are not superhuman. They are decisive. They take the dreams that others only talk about and turn them into plans. They take the plans others postpone and turn them into action. They take the actions others give up on and turn them into destiny. And destiny is never random. Destiny is crafted. Think of the sculptor Michelangelo, chiseling away at marble for years to reveal the statue hidden within. That is what you must do with your own life. Chip away the excuses. Chip away the doubt. Chip away the need for permission. Chip away every belief that tells you you're not ready or not worthy or not enough. Because underneath it all, there is a masterpiece waiting, a version of you that has always existed, buried beneath layers of hesitation and history. You are not becoming someone new. You are revealing who you were meant to be. But revelation requires courage, not the loud kind, not the kind that performs, but the quiet courage of showing up each day to build the life you imagine, even when no one claps for you, even when no one notices, even when no one understands. The world might not understand your vision. The world might not support your dreams. The world might not believe you can become what you imagine. But you must understand, you must support, you must believe. You cannot expect others to have faith in a future they cannot see. That is your job. That is your gift. That is your responsibility. You were given the vision, not them. And the greatest tragedy in life is that most people hand over their dreams to the opinions of those who stopped dreaming long ago. They trade their imagination for approval. They trade their potential for permission. They trade their future for the comfort of staying the same. But you cannot live a life of greatness while clinging to the approval of the ordinary. You cannot build an extraordinary future while seeking validation from people who fear change. You cannot rise if you are anchored by the expectations of those who never learned to fly. There comes a point where you must choose. Grow or stay safe. Rise or stay the same. Create the life you imagine. or settle for the life you inherited. And choosing growth means entering the unknown. It means stepping onto a path with no guarantees, no certainty, no applause. But understand this: every dream worth living requires a journey worth taking. And every journey worth taking begins in uncertainty. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Ford's early designs were mocked by engineers. The Wright brothers were ridiculed by scientists who said flight was impossible. Edison was told his inventions were pointless fantasies. If they had waited for permission, the world you know today would not exist. Progress does not come from permission. It comes from people who refuse to wait for it. And now the world needs you to do the same. Not because the world depends on you, but because your life depends on it. You are not born to be a spectator. You are born to be a creator, a builder, a visionary. Someone who takes the invisible, your thoughts, your dreams, your imagination, and turns it into something real, something tangible, something powerful. This is the true meaning of creation. Not art, not invention, but identity. You create the life you imagine by first imagining the version of you who is worthy of it, and then living as that version day after day until the world has no choice but to reflect your new reality. This is how the mind works. This is how belief works. This is how manifestation works in its true, grounded, powerful form. It's not magic. It's alignment. The alignment of your thoughts, your actions, your standards, your habits, your decisions. Everything you are must point toward everything you desire. And when that alignment becomes unbreakable, so does your momentum. Momentum is the greatest force you will ever experience. Momentum will carry you farther than motivation, farther than discipline, farther than confidence. Momentum transforms effort into inevitability. Momentum takes small steps and turns them into unstoppable progress. Momentum is built the moment you stop waiting and start acting, consistently, intentionally, relentlessly. And once you taste momentum, everything changes. You stop fantasizing and start building. You stop wishing and start working. You stop dreaming and start becoming. Becoming is the real journey. Becoming is the real reward. Becoming is the moment when the life you imagine begins to merge with the life you live. Because life is not transformed by what you want. It is transformed by who you become in the pursuit of what you want. Desires create direction, but identity creates destiny. And destiny bends itself toward those who refuse to bend their standards. When you stop waiting for permission, your standards rise. When your standards rise, your habits shift. When your habits shift, your identity evolves. And when your identity evolves, your future changes. This is how transformation begins, not with force, but with alignment. You stop acting like the old version of you and start living as the future version. Not someday, not later, now, in your next choice, in your next action, in your next thought. You stop saying, I can't. You stop saying, maybe later. You stop saying, I need more time. And you start saying, I will. I choose. I create. I become. These words are not affirmations. They are declarations. They are the language of someone who no longer negotiates with their dreams. They are the vocabulary of someone who has taken ownership of their life. And ownership is rare. Most people outsource their power. They blame their circumstances. They blame their past. They blame their parents, their environment, their luck, their timing. But the moment you take ownership, the moment you say, my life is my responsibility, the chains fall off. The path opens. The future becomes flexible. Because a life built on blame is rigid, but a life built on responsibility is limitless. Responsibility is not a burden. It is freedom. It is the moment you realize that no one has the authority to stop you unless you hand them that power. And you have handed it out too many times. To your fears, to your insecurities, to your past, to people whose opinions should have never mattered. Reclaim your power, reclaim your voice, reclaim your vision. Do not let the noise of the world silence the whisper of your soul. There is something inside you that knows exactly who you could be if you stop shrinking. There is something inside you that knows the life you imagine is possible, even if you cannot explain how. That is your internal compass, your inner guidance, your instinct for expansion. And that instinct is never wrong. Every human being has a blueprint for greatness, but most never activate it because activation requires discomfort. Growth requires shedding. Evolution requires release. You cannot rise to your future while gripping the anchor of your past. You must release the need to be liked. Release the fear of judgment. Release the identity that was shaped by experiences that no longer define you. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to outgrow people, places, habits, and patterns that once felt familiar. In fact, you must, because transformation is not comfortable. Transformation is disruptive. Transformation dismantles the version of you that was built for survival, so you can become the version of you that is built for purpose. And purpose is not something you find. It is something you choose. It is something you construct through intention. It is something you call forward through your actions. Purpose is the thread that connects your present effort to your future self. And once you choose it, everything else begins to rearrange itself around that choice. You start meeting people aligned with your vision. You start attracting opportunities that match your identity. You start noticing possibilities that were invisible before. You start feeling strength you didn't know you had. You start walking differently, speaking differently, thinking differently. Because purpose does not just guide you, it reshapes you. And with purpose comes direction. With direction comes clarity. And with clarity comes power. A power to make decisions not out of fear, but out of intention. A power to say no without apology and yes without hesitation. The power to walk away from anything that does not serve your future. The world cannot stop a person who is clear on where they're going. Clarity turns ordinary individuals into giants. Clarity turns doubt into fuel. Clarity turns obstacles into stepping stones. Clarity turns the impossible into the inevitable. But you don't wait for clarity. You create clarity through movement, through commitment, through experience. Clarity is not found, it is earned. And the moment you stop waiting, you begin earning. You begin gathering data from your own life. You begin learning by doing instead of learning by hoping. You begin replacing fear with evidence. Evidence that you are stronger, braver, more capable than you imagined. This is how confidence is built. This is how belief is sculpted. This is how transformation becomes reality. Confidence does not come from repetition of positive words. It comes from the accumulation of courageous actions. Every time you act despite fear, you rewrite the code of your identity. Every time you take a step you once avoided, you prove to yourself that the old you is no longer in control. Every time you move forward without permission, you become the creator of your own destiny. And destiny responds to courage. Destiny bends to the brave. Destiny opens for those who are willing to leap before they feel ready. The people you admire, the ones who built empires, changed industries, rewrote history, they were not fearless. They acted in spite of fear. They walked with uncertainty. They built while being doubted. They created before being validated. That is the path you are walking now. A path carved not by those who waited, but by those who dared. And daring is not the absence of fear. Daring is the choice to move while fear screams at you to still. Every step you take into the unknown weakens the grip of the old you. Every action you take toward the life you imagine strengthens the identity of the new you. Yes, you will feel resistance. Yes, you will feel uncertainty. Yes, you will feel the weight of everything you've been through. But understand this clearly. Resistance is not a sign to stop. Resistance is a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Resistance appears the moment you begin rewriting your story. Because the old version of you, the one shaped by hesitation, shaped by fear, shaped by years of holding back, does not want to die. It wants to cling to the familiar. It wants to stay in the warmth of predictability. It wants to keep you small enough to avoid discomfort. And discomfort is exactly what transformation requires. Growth is uncomfortable. Evolution is uncomfortable. Stepping into your power is uncomfortable. But staying the same is devastating. The people who achieve greatness understand this deeply. They know the cost of staying small is far higher than the cost of growth. They know comfort is a silent killer of potential. They know that every dream demands discomfort as its entry fee. Think of Henry Ford facing bankruptcy, ridicule, and failure before reshaping transportation forever. Think of Oprah choosing authenticity in a world that demanded conformity. Think of Elon Musk sleeping on factory floors because his vision mattered more than anyone's approval. These individuals were not waiting for the world to agree with them. They moved forward even as the world doubted. They were guided by vision, not validation. And that is what you must embody, the courage to move despite doubt. Doubt is natural. Fear is natural. Uncertainty is natural. But none of them are stop signs. They are simply reminders that you are stepping onto ground you've never walked before. They are signals that you are expanding beyond the limits of who you used to be. They are evidence that you are on the threshold of becoming someone new. And the beautiful truth is this: you do not need to see the entire path. You only need to take the next right step, the step aligned with the life you imagine, the step aligned with the identity you are building, the step aligned with your purpose. Purpose doesn't give you the whole journey. But small moves create unstoppable momentum when they are repeated with commitment. You don't need to leap every day. You just need to step every day. Step into discipline. Step into clarity. Step into courage. Step into the identity of someone who creates, someone who builds, someone who acts. Because identity is everything. You cannot create a life of abundance while thinking like someone who lives in scarcity. You cannot create a life of power while thinking like someone who waits for permission. You cannot create a life of purpose while thinking like someone who lives by chance. You must adopt the identity of a creator, someone who sees possibilities where others see problems, someone who acts where others hesitate, someone who commits where others make excuses. The life you imagine is waiting on you to embody that identity. And the moment you do, life will begin to shift. You'll feel at first a subtle internal alignment, a sense of certainty where there once was doubt. Then you'll see it, opportunities emerging, connections forming, ideas flowing. Then you'll live it, a reality shaped by your intention, your courage, your refusal to wait anymore. The truth is simple but powerful. Your life transforms the moment you stop asking for permission to live it. You don't need anyone to approve your vision. You don't need anyone to validate your dreams. You don't need anyone to believe in what you feel called to create. Your belief is enough. Your conviction is enough. Your vision is enough. And yes, people will question you. They will doubt you. They will misunderstand you. They will try to measure your future with the tape of their own limitations. That is what people do when they fear someone else's growth. They project their fears onto your ambition. But you must not shrink. You must not dim your light. You must not dilute your dreams for the comfort of those who chose safety over vision. You owe them nothing. You owe the world nothing. But you owe yourself everything. Everything you've dreamed of. Everything you've imagined. Everything you've been too afraid to begin. And the only thing standing between you and that life is the belief that someone else needs to approve your path. That belief is a lie. That belief is the chain. That belief is the cage you outgrew long ago. Break it. Your future is too valuable to sacrifice for permission that will never come. Your potential is too powerful to waste on waiting. Your destiny is too important to hand over to the opinions of those who never dared. You choose the moment your life changes. You choose when to rise. You choose when enough is enough. And the moment you choose, everything changes. And this is where the great divide happens. This is where the world quietly separates into two types of people: those who wait and those who decide, those who ask life for permission, and those who tell life through their actions, I am coming. Make space. You must understand something that most people never learn. Life bends for the person who has made up their mind. Life rearranges itself around the individual who walks with the energy of inevitability, the one who moves as if the outcome is already written. This is the secret people search for in books, in speeches, in gurus. The universe responds to a decisive mind, not a perfect mind, not a fearless mind, not a flawless plan, just decisiveness. Because decisiveness is the moment the world feels your intent. It is the moment your life takes shape. The moment your future becomes a direction, not a dream floating in the clouds. But here is the trap most people fall into. They think they need to feel ready before they begin. But readiness is a myth. You are not supposed to feel ready. You are supposed to feel the fire of becoming someone you have never been. Readiness doesn't create greatness. Leaps do. And so today I ask you, not softly, not politely, but with the intensity life itself demands, when will you stop pretending you do not know what you want? When will you stop shrinking your desires because someone else might not understand them? When will you stop delaying the life that only you can build? You are not behind. You are not late. You are simply standing at the threshold of the life you imagine. And that threshold is crossed by action, not permission. Think about every person who has changed the world in any capacity. Every innovator, every entrepreneur, every creator, every thinker, every leader. Not one of them waited to be chosen. Not one of them waited for applause. Not one of them waited for someone to say, now you may begin. Edison didn't wait for someone to validate his 1,000 failures. Disney didn't wait for permission to dream a world no one else could see. Ford didn't wait for approval before daring to imagine automobiles for the everyday person. Oprah didn't wait for permission to rise above her circumstances and reshape an entire industry. And neither should you, because your life is calling, always calling, in whispers at first, then in echoes, and finally in a thunder you can no longer ignore. The question is not whether the life you imagine is possible. The question is whether you are willing to stop living in the waiting room of your own potential. You must ask yourself, what am I diluting? What am I delaying? What am I denying myself because I'm waiting for the world to approve my vision? Your dream is not waiting for conditions to be perfect. Your dream is waiting for you. And there will come a day years from now when you will look back and either say, I'm grateful I started, or I wish I had. This is the truth only the brave accept. The opportunity of a lifetime isn't found. It's created through movement, through imperfect action, through the courage to begin while others hesitate. You cannot discover your strength from the sidelines. You cannot uncover your voice through silence. You cannot build your future through delay. At some point, you must do the thing that changes everything. You must step. Step before you are ready. Step before you have certainty. Step while the fear still shakes inside you like an uninvited guest. Step while the critics talk. Step while the noise gets loud. Step while the path is unclear. Because it is only by stepping that the path reveals itself. Momentum is born from the moment you decide to stop waiting. And if you truly listen, beneath the noise, beneath the doubt, you will hear a deeper truth rising inside you. You are not born to seek permission. You are born to create. And once this truth begins to rise in you, something shifts. The fear you once obeyed no longer feels like a wall. It becomes a doorway. The doubt you once believed becomes feedback. The obstacles you once ran from become training grounds for your becoming. Because the moment you stop waiting for permission, you reclaim something powerful, your authorship. You become the writer of your story, instead of the character reacting to everyone else's script. You stop living as a spectator, and you step into the arena where life is actually shaped. You stop looking outward for validation, and you begin to anchor yourself from within. This is where self-mastery begins. Not in comfort, not in approval, not in applause. It begins when you decide that your vision is worthy, simply because it was given to you. Understand this. You were chosen by your desire. You were chosen by your imagination. You were chosen by the dream that keeps resurfacing, even when you try to silence it. Dreams are not accidents. Dreams are invitations, and you either accept or decline them. Most decline, not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, but because they have been trained to ask the world for permission, trained to play small, trained to wait their turn, trained to shrink their potential to match their environment. But you did not come this far to repeat the patterns you were born into. You did not survive everything you've survived just to live a life of hesitation and hidden brilliance. Inside you is a version of yourself that is unrecognizable compared to who you are today. A version built through courage. A version sculpted through discipline. A version sharpened by clarity and vision and relentless self-belief. But this version will not appear while you stand still. You must walk toward it. And every step you take, every risk you lean into, every leap you refuse to postpone, pulls that future version closer into the present. The life you imagine lives on the other side of a door marked action, not intention, not dreaming, not planning, not hoping, not wishing. Action, because action is the proof of belief. Action is the vote you cast for the future you want. Action is the bridge between who you are and who you can become. But here is another truth most people never understand. You don't need massive action. You need committed action, daily action, aligned action. The kind of action that says, I refuse to betray my future for the convenience of my comfort. The world will tell you to be realistic. But realism is the graveyard of potential. Every extraordinary life was built by someone who was irrational enough to believe in something more. Carnegie was unrealistic. Ford was unrealistic. The Wright brothers were unrealistic. Every innovator, every leader, every visionary began as someone who refused to let the limitations of others shape what they believed was possible. So the question becomes, will you obey your fear or your future? Because one of them is lying to you. Fear says, wait, slow down, play safe. Your future says, move, build, become. Which voice will you follow? You must choose the voice that expands you, the voice that challenges you, the voice that demands your evolution, the voice that refuses to let you die with your potential trapped inside you. And understand this, your dream does not need to be understood by anyone but you. It does not need to be approved. It does not need to be applauded. It does not need to be validated, but it does need to be pursued. Because every day you wait, you are teaching yourself that your dream is negotiable. Every day you delay, you are teaching your mind that your desires are optional. Every day you postpone your vision, you are shrinking your identity to match a life that does not satisfy your soul. And that is not why you are here. You are here to expand. You are here to rise. You are here to build the life you imagine. Not the life that is convenient. Not the life that is comfortable. Not the life that is predictable. The life you imagine. The one that keeps calling you. The one that feels like destiny tapping you on the shoulder. And destiny does not call twice.